As we begin with prayer. And then we have introduction and welcome by Sister Greta. Then we have opening remarks by Father Matthew Vatametam. Then the prophecy of religious life in the midst of the climate crisis by Alberto Paris. And then unpacking the campaign. The campaign itself will be explained what this campaign is all about by Roberto Jaramillo. And then faith-based advocacy in action. How can we do advocacy through this campaign? Approaching the delegates of our own country where we are to preparation for the COP30. And then we will have a few minutes for comments and question and answers. So kindly write your question and answers in the chat box, or we can give you time to speak at that time. And then we will have the concluding remarks by Bodhi at the end. So that is in a nutshell about today's program. We shall conclude the program in an hour and a half, so at the most. So we begin today's session by prayer. I invite Blair Matheson, the Executive Director of Franciscan Internationals.
Thank you, Father Ray. Let's pray. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Most high, all-powerful, good Lord, yours are the praises, the glory and the honor, and all blessing. God of goodness, who created the earth and gave humans the possibility to cultivate it, help us work in this new season so that generations may receive this earth better than it currently is. Breath of life that creates and recreates all peoples, hear your voice in the waters, lands, sun, winds, and dewfall that moisten our sister earth and the germinated seeds that turn into food. We ask that you touch the hearts of those who only look for gain at the expense of the poor and the earth. Teach us to discover the worth of each being, to be filled with awe and contemplation, to recognize that we are profoundly united with every creature. We ask you to turn the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor into our cry. May we all know the wisdom of deep listening, the healing of wholesome words, the encouragement of the appreciative gaze, and the decorum of held dignity, and the true adventure of growth together. Teach us, Lord, to care for creation. Inspire us to commit ourselves and engage in concrete actions to protect and conserve our planet. Amen.
Thank you, Blair, for the beautiful prayer. Having invoked the presence of God in our midst, now we shall move to the next, that is welcoming and an introduction to the session.
A warm welcome to all of you joining us from different parts of the world.
Sister Greta, can I introduce you yourself so that? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have Sister Greta Fernandez, SSPS, the Holy Spirit Sister. She, since October 2018, she has been the Mission Secretary of the Missionary Sisters Servants of the Holy Spirit. And she is currently the Executive Secretary of VIVAT International, a faith-based NGO at the United Nations in New York, as well as in Geneva. Her areas of work are JPIC, Justice, Peace and Integrity of Creation, policy advocacy, networking, women and children, people living in poverty and margins. work experience in social work, community organization, local and global advocacy, and teaching. So welcome, Sister Greta, for the introduction and welcome.
Thank you, Father Roy. Once again, a warm welcome to all of you joining from various parts of the world. This webinar, as explained earlier by Father Roy, is organized by JPIC Commission of UISG and USG from Rome in collaboration with the VIVAT International, Franciscan Internationals, and Jesuits for Climate Change. Today, we would like to introduce to you the campaign named Religious Life for Climate Justice, Turning Hope into Action. The purpose of this webinar is to mobilize, empower, and engage religious communities all over in taking concrete actions in preparation for COP30. As global climate negotiations will be held in Brazil this November, it is imperative to amplify the voices of those facing the harshest consequences, often marginalized and unheard by those making decisions. Today, our speakers will focus on the 4 calls to action addressed in the campaign, and we will also explain the campaign statement and how to lobby your respective governments before the COP30. The statement was initially drafted by Jesuits for Climate Justice and was shared with the Franciscan Internationals, VIVAT International, and with the JPIC Commission Rome for their input. As this year is the Jubilee Year of Hope, this year also marks the 10th anniversary of Laudato Si encyclical and the Paris Agreement. We, as pilgrims of hope, are compelled to respond to the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. We hope that today's webinar motivates us to engage effectively in taking actions towards climate justice globally and locally. We thank all of you for taking the trouble to join us today and hope you enjoy this webinar.
Thank you, Sister Greta, for welcoming all of us and also to give the importance and the meaning of today's webinar that we are having today. And now I invite Father Matthew Watamatam. He is the Superior General of the Congregation of Missionary Sons of the Immaculate Heart of the Blessed Virgin Mary, the Claretians, in short form CMR. He is in the second term of his Superior Generalship. He is the co-president of Justice, Peace and Integrity of Creation Commission of USG and USG Rome. His specialization is in psychology and systematic theology, licentiate in both, from Gregorian University, Rome. He is committed to JPIC concerns all through. So I welcome Father Matthew Watamatam for the opening remarks. Father Matthew. Father Matthew, are you there? Yes.
Are we supposed to see anything on there?
Father Matthew, can you put on your camera so that I can spotlight you? Your camera is on.
Okay.
Yes,
Do you hear me?
See you.
Okay.
Yes.
Greetings to you, dear friends.
You would like to share your screen, Father?
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
So now it's okay.
Yeah, yes, fine. You can put in the presentation mode. So
yeah.
Yes.
It is in that mode. Okay. So
Fine.
Greetings to you, dear friends. Greetings in the name of UISG and USG. I speak you from Sri Lanka, a paradise nation burdened by war, tsunami, pandemic, political and economic crisis, and huge debt in this country. and slowly they are trying to rise up. With a new government, if this country can rise from the ashes, if the international community also come to its support, but they are actually rising up slowly. But I can see the suffering. Much more than this, many other countries, almost 50 countries in the world are struggling under the weight of debt. And all of us are also struggling under the climate change. We are such a wonderful group. I'm happy that we are gathered together. And together we can contribute to a change. And that is what is happening in our own coming together and doing something together where we can exert some influence on the decision-making bodies. We are in a planet in peril and in pain. 2024, the hottest year ever recorded, and global temperature crossing 1.5 centigrade for the first time. Over 3.3 billion people live in debt-trapped nations. More than 50 countries face unsustainable international debt. This is not just environmental. It is a moral, spiritual, and economic crisis. And we cannot be just onlookers, and we cannot be missionaries as if the poor do not exist and that their suffering doesn't matter. Long-standing consensus on the human origin of global warming, and we watch it and experience it. Now these pictures may not even affect us as they are coming again and again. But we are at a Kairos moment, this COP30 in Brazil, in the Amazonias, held in Belém, in the heart of the Amazon, a global mutirao, a communal effort for the common good, a decisive opportunity after years of stalled progress. COP 2028, and there has been effort from our side, sometimes discouraged, but we shall not. I think we should move forces together. Our prophetic voice as religious is needed more than ever. Our four prophetic calls: cancel the debt of poor countries. Over 3.3 billion people live in nations that spend more on debt than on health or education. This is not just bad economics. It is a sin against justice and against life itself. We have missions in these peripheries, and we know how much our people suffer. Strengthen the loss and damage fund. Climate finance must not create more debt. It must be timely, adequate, and based on grants, not loans. The communities most affected deserve support, not bureaucracy. The world needs to look at the humans with a heart, not just the purse in mind. So we strive for debt cancellation and loss and damage issues. Third, promote a just energy transition. We must say a decisive no to fossil fuel expansion and a bold yes to renewable energy that respects the rights of indigenous peoples, local communities, and the earth itself, starting with our own communities, our own congregations' efforts. For support food sovereignty through agroecology. The majority of the world's food is grown by small farmers using minimal land and water. Let us shift resources from industrial agriculture to local sustainable systems. And we have enough technology to support this agro-revolution in the small scale farmers, and so that they can sustain rather than depend on the outside for sustenance. And why these calls matter. They bring justice to those most impacted by climate change. They address structural sin, debt, inequality, exploitation. They echo our gospel call to protect life, dignity, and creation. They move us from symbolic presence to prophetic action. We are a significant group to make a difference, at least to touch others. 59,000 consecrated laymen, 580,000 or around consecrated women, 128,000 consecrated priests, and our diocesians, brothers, together a big group and collaborators, associates, and all the people to whom we are sent to serve, and the capacity for networking. If we don't do it, then we leave an empty space there. So a spiritual awakening, let us pray, act, and advocate from our charisms. Mobilize communities, schools, parishes. Be part of a global mutirao rooted in faith and justice. And so I came that they may have life and have it abundantly for all. Thank you. Together for justice, peace, and integrity of creation, together with our brothers and sisters.
Thank you, Father Matthew, for sharing with us these insights. And now we move on to the serious topic. I would like to introduce to you Brother Alberto Farise, MCCJ. He is a Comboni missionary brother from Italy. He is Assistant Secretary of Mission and JPIC Coordinator in Rome. He is President of the Executive Committee of Africa-Europe Faith Justice Network. Former Director of the Institute of Social Ministry, now Institute for Social Transformation at Tangaza University College, Nairobi. He is a lecturer in Foundations of Social Ministry and Methodology of Social Transformation, that is a pastoral cycle. So Alberto Parisi will be talking on the prophecy of religious life in the midst of the climate crisis. So welcome to Brother Alberto.
Thank you, Roy. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, let me go to presentation mode. Okay, so as Father Roy mentioned, today I would like to share with you this reflection on the prophecy of religious life in the midst of the climate crisis. And I will do it in the context of the Jubilee year that we are living. The Jubilee year invites hope. And we know that hope is, in the first place, comes from God's grace. And we find hope in God's mercy and forgiveness. But if we read the Bull of Indiction of the Jubilee, we read that we need to find hope also in the signs of the time. And in particular, the document makes two specific calls. One is about eradication of hunger, which is a scandal, hunger. And the second one is about the forgiveness of debts. And more than a question of generosity, this is a matter of justice in consideration of commercial imbalances with effects on the environment and the disproportionate use of natural resources by certain countries over long periods of time. The Jubilee calls for reparations in order to prepare a path to peace in our world. That is an appeal to commit ourselves to remedying the remote causes of injustice, settling unjust and unpayable debts, and feeding the hungry. And now let's have a look, to the biblical Jubilee, because these points that the bull, underscores about the Jubilee come from the biblical tradition, which has more than this. The biblical tradition of the Jubilee invites the people of God to conversion by restoring right relationships and an egalitarian society where human dignity and fraternity are respected and promoted. And in particular, it envisaged the restoration of land, properties that had been sold or transferred were returned to their original owners, ensuring that families maintain their source of livelihood and their socio-cultural identity. The liberation of slaves, those who had sold themselves into slavery because of debt, were freed, reaffirming the dignity and freedom of every person and calling for fraternity within an egalitarian society. Another demand was the remission of debts. Debts were cancelled, allowing those who had fallen into poverty to start over without the burden of financial obligations. This emphasized the importance of mercy and solidarity, offering everyone a chance for a new beginning. And then there was the demand for the rest for the land, which meant freedom from systems of accumulation and exploitation, while promoting the sharing of what divine providence provides for the basic needs of all. When the little that is available is shared, there is enough for everyone. These measures were not only economic, but held deep theological meaning. God as the one true owner of the land and the liberator of God's people. Ultimately, it was about returning to God's dream for humanity. A dream humanity departs from when it builds a society based on the accumulation of wealth and resources, domination, and violence against others, often cloaked in religious justification. In contrast, the Jubilee envisions an alternative society founded on sharing, service, non-violence, and a relationship with God who hears the cry of the poor. So today, the world is facing a polycrisis, namely the presence of mutually influencing diverse crises. We have a crisis of wars. We have we are just getting out of a health crisis. We are also within a deep economic crisis with debt, as Father Matthew already mentioned. So, as Laudato Si 139 put it, we are faced not with the two separate crises, one environmental, like the climate crisis, and the other one social, like it can be economic, climate, also wars and so forth, but rather with one complex crisis, which is both social and environmental. Strategies for a solution demand an integrated approach to combating poverty, restoring dignity to the excluded, and at the same time protecting nature. On one hand, we have the climate crisis with devastating impacts. On the other hand, we are in a situation that Pope Francis defined as a piecemeal Third World War. There seems to remain no red lines to contain conflicts. Think of Ukraine, think of Palestine. And the arms race has picked up to unprecedented levels, creating more debt and diverting resources from social services and from mitigation, adaptation, and reparation in relation to climate change. The multilateral diplomatic approach to solving global problems and conflicts has waned, and the world has entered a phase in which the logic of might is right, of extermination and impunity prevail. Human and people's rights are neglected or trampled upon, and inequalities continue to grow as a result of unjust economic structures, pushing ever more people below the poverty line and the planet beyond its own regenerative capacity. Against such a backdrop, the call of the biblical Jubilee is very relevant and meaningful. It is a call to reparation for an unjust, unsustainable, and sinful socioeconomic and political system. Laudate Deum called for a pilgrimage of reconciliation with the world, that is our home, building peace with creation and among peoples. Religious life is a prophetic sign because it represents a radical commitment to Christ. Religious men and women offer a countercultural witness in a world dominated by such a sinful socioeconomic system. They are called to raise a prophetic critique of social injustices, of war, exploitation, and environmental degradation. Through their lives and ministries, they are called to awaken consciences and promote the dignity of every person, of every people, and of the whole of creation. Consecrated persons live and work among the poor, marginalized, and suffering ones. This solidarity is prophetic because it reveals the heart of God for the least and reminds the church and the world of the preferential option for the poor. But such a prophecy is incomplete without a commitment to systemic change, which is precisely what the biblical Jubilee calls for. When we talk of systemic change, we mean a radical transformation of social structures and of the mentality of the culture that underpins them. We need not be disheartened because of the magnitude and complexity of the crisis we are facing. But as Laudate Deum underscored, it continues to be regrettable that global crises are being squandered when they could be the occasions to bring about beneficial changes. This is what happened in the 2007-2008 financial crisis, and again in the COVID-19 crisis. These were lost opportunities. And also, Laudate Deum 34 tells us that for there to be solid and lasting advances, I would insist, says Pope Francis, that preference should be given to multilateral agreements between states. True, the multilateral approach in recent years has come to a paralysis. Therefore, the current challenge is to reconfigure and recreate it, taking into account the new world situation. Despite all limitations and shortcomings, there is still a place where this can happen, namely the annual conferences of parties on climate change, or COPs. The parties are the states who signed the climate agreements, like the Paris Agreement in 2015. And currently they are 197 plus the European Union. Every year, we see how slow and disappointing is the progress made at these conferences. Conflicting, selfish interests of parties easily block a process that is based on consensus. Above all, the elephant in the room is that unless we change the current model of development, which is based on an extractive economy aiming at maximizing profits at the expense of social and environmental considerations, there is no solution to the climate crisis. The current challenge, as we said, is to reconfigure and recreate this space for multilateral agreements, taking into account this new world situation. Pope Francis, in fact, advocated for a new model of multilateralism, one which recognizes that many groups and organizations within civil society help to compensate for the shortcomings of the international community, its lack of coordination in complex situations, and its lack of attention to fundamental human rights. Civil society organizations and indigenous peoples already can participate as observers in COPs. And religious congregations then are called to journey along with them in advocating for climate justice. So, inspired by Laudato Si and by Pope Leo XIV's call to live an integral ecology with justice, the Episcopal conferences of Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the Caribbean have issued a message last month on occasion of COP30, addressed to government leaders and urging them to work for an ambitious implementation of the Paris Agreement for the benefit of people and planet. They raise a prophetic voice calling for peace through an ecological conversion that transforms the current model of development. Religious congregations are raising also their voices for climate justice, and they are calling on governments to act boldly at the UN climate meeting that will take place in Brazil in November, the meeting that is known as COP30. So you have already heard the 4 calls, Father Matthew mentioned them, the 4 calls that as religious congregations we are making to the leaders of the parties, the states, who are going to meet in Belém. I would like just to underscore how these 4 calls are connected to the demands of the biblical Jubilee. When we talk of debt cancellation, that resonates with the remission of debts that we find in the Leviticus chapter 25. When we talk of strengthening the loss and damage fund, well, that really has to do with the issue of restitution of land. That means restoring the means of survival of impoverished people. When we advocate for establishing targets for a just energy transition, it means leaving fossil fuels where they are, under the soil. And that has to do with the rest for the land, in order to grant freedom from systems of accumulation and exploitation, an extractive economy. And setting concrete goals for a global food sovereign system based on family farming and agroecology. Well, this resonates with the restoration of land and the liberation from enslaved labor. So in conclusion, these calls relate closely to the discussions that will take place at COP30 in November, and religious congregations inspired by the social teaching of the Church invite all people of goodwill, other religious groups and communities, civil society groups, and all individuals to join this campaign for climate justice, which is going to be presented in detail by the next speaker. Together, our shared efforts can help protect our planet, defend the most vulnerable, and ensure a hopeful future for generations to come. As Pope Francis stated at the end of Laudate Deum, may those taking part in the conference be strategists capable of considering the common good and the future of their children, more than short-term interests of certain countries or businesses. In this way, may they demonstrate the nobility of politics and not its shame. To the powerful, I can only repeat this question: what would induce anyone at this stage to hold on to power, only to be remembered for their inability to take action when it was urgent and necessary to do so? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Alberto, for the very beautifully explaining to us the climate crisis, the polycrisis that you have explained to us. Because all of us are in the midst of this crisis. We are victims of this crisis. And we as religious have a great responsibility towards addressing this crisis. And thank you for giving us the importance, the significance of Jubilee year. And also why we need to engage ourselves in this conversion of ourselves during this Jubilee year. Thank you for also explaining to us what is COP and the need and importance for us religious to be part of this process of addressing this issue of climate crisis. And we are moving one step ahead. Brother Alberto has put us into perspective why we are here. And now we are moving on to the next step, that is the campaign itself. So I am inviting our next speaker. I would like to introduce to you Roberto. Roberto Jaramillo Bernal is a Jesuit priest from Colombia, the secretary of the Society of Jesus for issues related to social justice and ecology in Rome. He was previously president of the Conference of Jesuits of Latin America and the Caribbean. He was the former director of the Institute of Social Ministry, now known as Institute for Social Transformation at Tangaza University College, Nairobi. He worked for 18 years in Brazilian Amazon and 10 years in Peru. A person with vast experience who is heading the justice and the peace issues of the Society of Jesus. And he will be talking about the campaign itself. Why are we here? And what we are supposed to do. The 4 calls that already Brother Alberto has mentioned. So he will deal with us. He will explain to us what these 4 calls are and how we can do this campaign together as religious. So welcome to Roberto.
Roy, thank you also Alberto and Father Matthew and Sister Greta for this introduction to this and your participation. I am really delightful in this session and very pleased to see the attendance. Thank you for your presence, the presence of everyone here. I have the challenge to use this 10 minutes to present the whole campaign, but I have the advantage that it has already been presented by the former speakers. What's a request to me is to unpack the religious life climate justice campaign, and I will go directly to the point. The mission of this campaign has 3 or 4 different entries. First of all, to make our voices be heard as citizens, first as citizens of this planet, as citizens of every nation which we belong, different nations that are represented here, as believers, as people of faith, celebrating this Jubilee year, and people of hope, as a human beings, as a human creatures. Also, we have also a mission of changing our hearts with this campaign, with this activities we are going to propose, starting by ourselves personally. In our communities, we have the responsibility to insufflate, to try to help our brothers and sisters, not only religious men and women, but lay collaborators, all the people who are working in our apostolic works, to be really converted, to suffer in the good sense of this word, a metanoia. Something should be changed this year, and also in our institutions. Also, we have a little bit more difficult task to try to change the hearts and minds of the representatives and the governments. It is tough. It is tough. And this is only one of the strategies, but we need to address this challenge, this mission, from different points of view and from different entries. It is necessary to be in the streets, but it is necessary also to be in the hall of the convention, in the discussions, in the meetings, in the multilateral dialogues. And also we have the mission to change the world dynamic. Yes, it's because we cannot be silent. We cannot remain quiet in our business, in our apostolic communities or institutions. We should not neglect the responsibility each one of us, each community, each country, each institution have to change the world dynamic. It's like if we were going to make the world to turn the other side, no, the other side. But it's a work, it's a challenge for giants, but we can do it if we do it together. Just going directly to the point, to the campaign, we are trying to propose two big actions that we can do together through two mechanisms that Daniela will explain later. But we are not trying to substitute or to annul or to despite the multitude of initiatives you can put at work in your own places, but we are trying to make a bigger impact. To united, we can do more and we can do it better, and to have a clearer witnesses of our faith, of why are we a religious life, a consecrated man and women for announcing the new world we are waiting for and building together. What is ours could be more powerful and more significant, more relevant than what it is just mine. This is an appeal for generosity, for collaboration, for an attitude of proposing things, of creating things, of moving people around us, family, fellow religious men and women, people working in our institutions, teachers, other sisters, catechists, people from the parishes, etc. So we can really make the difference together. Because this is the desire of Jesus. Jesus was asking the Father the grace to be one, as he is only one with the Father. And in unity, we can find the realization of the desire of our Lord Jesus Christ. So we have designed, we have proposed as a common campaign, Religious Life for Climate Justice campaign, turning hope into action, two mechanisms. One is the general statement that I will talk in a minute, and a policy brief, and second, an online mechanism to make a kind of national advocacy during these two next months, July, August, and September. The four calls that you will find in the general statement have Father Matthew and Brother Alberto have already talked about. The first one is about the debt cancellation, the unjust historical and unmoral burden of debt. Father Matthew remember us that more than 50 countries are really trapped by the burden of debt, and the debt has many dimensions that we can consider, but this is the first call to pardon, to negotiate, to find just mechanism to cancel, to condone the debt of the poor countries. The second call we have in the general statement has to be with the mechanism or called loss and damage funds. It's a mechanism that it has centered the discussion in COP29 in Baku, and it will be one of the important discussions in Belém, to allocate enough money for helping the poor and middle-income countries to recover from disasters that are not their responsibility, or to say it in another form, disasters that are beyond the adaptation and mitigation plans that every country should implement. So there are events that that merits this kind of support, and we need to insist in the generosity and the just cause of having a big and more better regulated mechanism of loss and damage funds. The third call you find in the general statements has to be with the need for a just energy transition that moves energy matrices away from burning fossil fuels, a transition that allows all countries to develop, not just the powerful ones, all people to establish a life with human dignity. And the fourth call that you will find in the statement is the last but not the least, the urgency and of addressing systematically the problem of food security, considering food sovereignty and agroecological procedures or processes, and taking in account the patrimony of the indigenous people and the cultural differences. Those are the four calls. As you see, they are like a big umbrella under which different claims, different negotiations, different proposals could be encamped and protected and defended in the arena of the dialogues in COP30. That's the main part of the document, the statement. It is just one page, as you see here in the screen. It's a very concise document, but with this document, which is the one that we are asking all the religious life in the world, all the institutions we manage to sign and to empower to sign, we have a policy brief o una nota política, una nota explanatoria that you will find also in the website. That policy brief is a little bit more complicated, a little bit more tough, and we need a little bit more time and desire to learn and understand the complexity of the decisions we are dealing with and the difficulties of the negotiations that are happening now and will finish in November or in COP31 in Australia or in Oceania next year. I emphasize that we are not aiming with this statement and policy brief to standardize or replace the initiatives and freedom of any organization or religious group or community to develop other activities, but instead to find common ground where we can act as a unified body. May they all be one as we are one. The policy brief, you will find it also there in the web page that Daniela will show you. The second mechanism, I am just arriving to the final 2 minutes of my presentation, has to be with national advocacy. We have created a mechanism in a web page called ecojesuits.com, ecojesuit.com. Daniela will show you how to access it. It's a mechanism in which we propose that every person, every religious man and women in the world, every teacher, every catechist, every student, every father of family or janitors, every administrative person that is working with us can sign, putting the nationality, his or her nationality, his ID number and his name, and use a form that is already standardized you have it in your screen, to write to the president of your nation, your country, to the minister of environmental or whatever it's called in your country, and the head of the delegation of that country to the COP30, demanding that they can consider, that they must consider, that they should consider the 4 calls we have been doing in the general statement. So this is a mechanism that it will be open after this session, after this webinar, and you just put your name, your last name, national ID, email, and the country of origin. I recommend to mark also this box, because it's the way you sign to the state, to the general statement, and you will put in send. You will send those messages to those dignitaries. This is an important issue because, as Father Matthew said at the beginning of this webinar, we are 580,000 women, religious women around the world. We are 128,000 priests and religious brothers and priests and people, men consecrated for. We are almost roundly 1 million of men and women, consecrated men and women around the world, working with many professors, teachers, students, parents of family, catechism, administrative people, young children. We can multiply that if we make this campaign also soundly for our families, and we can have really a strong voice from everywhere in COP30. I just want to finish with a consideration, a different consideration. Let us collaborate for the care of the common home. This is all about synodal church. Yes, let's go together. Let's go together. We do not have the same possibilities. In the screen, you are seeing the way we normally design or think in networks and campaigns, as if everywhere, every member were the same size or the same color. We were more or less but no, we are very different in histories, in skills, in dimensions, in resources, in institutionality, in charisma, in places, in languages, in duties, etc. We are much more similar to this than to this, much more similar to this than to this. In this wonderful mechanism, which is a knee, every single element is different, and we can walk, we can cooperate, we can collaborate, we can coordinate, we can make working, because each element is different, because each element has a different color, a different texture, a different skill, a different function, a different resistance. But if any one of us omit itself or herself to participate, the knee will not be able to help us to walk. So we don't need to be or to do the same things. We are trying to work together as a network, as a body, because this image we have in the screen is much more similar than this idea or ideology we have in our heads. So let us be a body with all our difference, and let us go ahead to make the difference in COP30. Thank you very much, Roy. Thank you very much for everyone.
Thank you, Roberto. Could you please close sharing? Okay. Thank you, Roberto, for sharing with us, explaining to us the campaign, the policy brief, and the 4 calls that we are trying to address. And this campaign is endorsed by the presidents of Union of Superior Generals, Arturo Sosa, and the UISG, the Union of International Superior Generals, President, Sister Una. So both of them have endorsed this campaign. So we will be inviting all the superior generals of all the congregations to endorse this campaign, as well as all the religious institutions. So we, as Roberto was mentioning, we are a big number as religious, committed to justice and peace, and also care for creation. We can make a difference. So it is possible only when we do advocacy, because advocacy will result in policy change. Only policy change can bring about change in today's world. So therefore, we need to do advocacy with people who are decision makers. So that's where we are going to the next step. How are we going to do this advocacy at national level? So I am inviting Daniela. Before that, I would like to introduce her to you. So meanwhile, kindly write your questions in the chat box so that at the end of the session, we will take up questions for answering. And we go ahead. Now, Daniela Alba, she is the Advocacy Coordinator for the Social Justice and Ecology Secretariat of the Society of Jesus in Rome. Originally from Colombia, she was displaced to the United States at an early age and centers her efforts at the intersection of forced migration, gender-based violence, and ecology rooted in her indigenous heritage. She holds a master's degree in peace and conflict studies and a bachelor's degree in philosophy. Daniela has previously worked with FAO, Oxfam, UNICEF, and the Jesuit Refugee Service. So Daniela will be explaining faith-based advocacy in action, advocacy with country delegates to COP30. So she will explain to us in detail how are we supposed to do this advocacy. Over to Daniela. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everyone here with us. It's an honor to be with you. And just as Father Roberto and Father Roy were saying, we're at a critical point in this climate crisis, this climate reality. I want to start by saying that my elders always tell me that there is not one day that goes by where the elements that we all rely on to live do not come into contact with everything that we do. So every day, the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, the ground we walk on, that is all our interaction with the earth. And we are most definitely one with her. So based on this, I want to start by outlining a little bit of what we have prepared. So as you heard before, we have the mechanism up on ecojesuit.com. I saw many people in the chat asking, how do you do it? Can you show us? Can you share all the links with us? So here I am, and I will be sharing my screen, a demonstration of just how to do that, and also sharing the links and speaking about the social media kit that we have prepared so that everyone can be a part of this and everyone can also advocate. So let me just change my screen really quickly. I will now share the actual website with you. So when you go to ecojesuit.com, can everyone see? Perfect. We see here the main page. And when you come to the main page, you want to head over to this little tab that says NDCs for COP30. When you click on this tab, you will see this beautiful layout with all of the partner organizations that have made this wonderful effort happen. You'll see here the statement for the National Contributions Campaign, an explanation of what nationally determined contributions are. Many of these spaces, COP30, other climate negotiation spaces, are full of technical terms, but we have striven to make this something that everyone and anyone can interact with. So I really invite you to read this. And then, as Father Roberto said, we have the formula. So what you will do is read the message that you will be sending out to your country representatives. and fill out the information as follows: your first name, your last name, your national ID or residency ID, your email, and your country of origin. Here you will be able to choose from the drop-down menu all of the countries that are listed as being parties as a part of the COP. And by checking this box, you will confirm, after reading the statement hopefully, that you also endorse the statement, which you can find below the policy brief and the statement, which takes you to another page where we have it translated in the following languages. We have the English version, the Spanish version for immediate download, the Portuguese, and the French. So please feel free to go read that, look at it well before you sign the statement and you opt for the NDC's mechanism. You can also see here exactly what you will be sending. And once you submit it, you will receive a copy of this email. We will also receive a copy of this email, and your representative will be receiving a copy of this email. This is very imperative because each and every one of the country delegates brings a plan, a national plan, to the Conference of the Parties, the COP. And each and every one of your voices is key in ensuring that we are making our voices heard and the voices of those that we accompany. Growing up, I remember the presence of religious people of all faiths, but most specifically religious men and women of the Catholic Church accompanying my family to fighting fracking, illegal mining, and even the destruction of our homes and the displacement, internal displacement of our peoples. So your presence in our lives, in our journeys, is critical, and therefore your voices and your accompaniment is also crucial at this time. The next part I want to share with you is a little bit more about the social media kit that we prepared for this campaign. So I will go ahead and show you a little bit more about that. I will reshare my presentation. So now that we're finished with that little demonstration, we can go back to exactly how to submit it. So by scanning this QR code, if you were unable to access the website, www.ecojesuit.com, you can scan this QR code and it will take you exactly to where we were before on the screen. We will also be sharing, and we have shared in the chat box, all of those links for you to see. Then we have our social media kit and guidelines, which are available in French, Spanish, Portuguese, and English as well. This will take you to the, I will show it again, my screen. This will take you to a Google folder, which you can use to make sure that you are seeing the guidelines, and you can print them out, hang them in your office, show people within your circles, share them on WhatsApp, and you will see here the guidelines of the campaign in the 4 languages. They will show you exactly where the statements are in a QR code and where the mechanism is on the website in another QR code. Then you will also have the option to share on your social media or wherever you want to share the post to have people join in and sign on to the campaign and the mechanism. And you can share this beautiful image with all of your networks just by downloading it from this social media kit. I have dropped the links again in the chat box, so hopefully you can see that and you can access it. Please download it, please share it with everyone and anyone that you can think of. And if you didn't get to see that, you can also click here on this beautiful little QR code as well. We will be sharing all of this via email with those of you who signed up for this webinar after the webinar, so don't worry if you don't have time to do it right away. So last but not least, I really want to thank you, because I think that without your presence in these efforts really fail. And unfortunately, we are at a critical point. So the message is not to fall into despair, but to continue as missionaries of hope and as pilgrims of hope, so that together we can help take care of Mother Earth. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela, for explaining to so beautifully how we can do this campaign and also do the advocacy with the national representatives. So that is wonderful. And I hope all of us will make use of this chance and also do share with others how to do it. And now we have a few minutes left for the question and answer sessions. If you can kindly write your questions in the chat box, and I will request few people to read in the languages like Portuguese. I will request Marinus to read in Portuguese the questions, and Spanish if Daniela or Roberto if could read the Spanish questions. Italian if Alberto could read, and then French, if some volunteers are there just to read in French, and our translators will translate in English and the respective languages, so no problem. So it's only reading out. Yeah.
Father Roy, if you want, I have the questions open and I can read the very first one in English.
Please. Yeah.
Okay, so and we knew that this topic was going to come up. Linda and also an anonymous participant asked, do you have any suggestions for those in countries like the US whose governmental representation might be absent or participate minimally at the COP30? And then again, for those of us in the USA, with which the Trump administration and presidency has withdrawn from the Paris Agreement, can we still sign on to the statement and national contributions campaign? Yes, of course you can, because we hope that by signing this statement, we can take it also into the season of creation, which is when this statement will close. So the presence of the US or the non-presence of the US and other countries at these conferences is important. So even sending the mechanism is already of something to be said to the Minister of Environment, which is also in the mechanism email list. So this is also a form of advocacy that the presence of these countries and these nations is extremely necessary, but also that together as people of faith, we can carry this on further than just the COP30, further than just climate negotiations in spaces that are very international and formal. It is an ecological conversion path. So now more than ever, your participation is key. And that's why the statement, signature and checkbox is also fundamental.
Thank you. Roberto? Yeah.
There were two questions. I'm going to introduce this. I'll be speaking Spanish. There were two questions that seem important. The first one is the participation of the lay companions in our works, parishes, schools, and the places where we work, our relatives. Please do not be embarrassed or do not fear to share the whole campaign with them. The title of the statement is quite open. It's not just for religious orders and congregations, it's religious life in general. That is normally, it's usually identified with the consecrated one, but it's all those who carry out a religious life who are involved in this campaign. So it doesn't only have to do with the 800,000 religious, but all those with whom we cooperate and who work with us. The second question was about the importance of the nationally determined contributions. In these 2 or 3 following months after the meeting that was held in Bonn between June 16 and which was a preparation meeting. Every nation is preparing, reviewing, revisiting, redoing what they're going to present as far as a commitment in November. That is why it is so important to address our words to those responsible for that event, to participate on the part of Colombia, China, Korea, India, United States, France, or whatever, which to tell them that we're interested, that these four major calls, the debt cancellation, the just energy transition, a fund for loss and damages that is stronger, and the work for a worldwide food system that keeps in considers the food sovereignty. These are more important. These are what the most important time is, these 3 months. That's why we invite everyone to participate. Thank you.
See one question in English. So what does the International Court of Justice's groundbreaking advisory opinion on climate change mean for loss and damage? If one of you could answer that. Yeah.
So I can definitely say that the ICJ and the ICC's groundbreaking announcement just this past week is a huge take on what happened in the Bonn conference. Because at the Bonn conference, many of the global north countries were reluctant to pay into the fund. With the withdrawal of the USA from the Paris Agreement and therefore its non-participation, there was a considerate loss to the fund itself. This compensation fund allows countries in severe debt to make their countries resilient from within. And it is also a debt that is owed to them. Now, obviously, corporations that are also parties to the COP are reluctant to also fund that mechanism. So this ICJ ruling, although non-binding, is an effort of the international community and of the legal space of international fora to speak on behalf of the world, saying, no, it is most definitely your responsibility. And while it is, again, non-enforcing, non-binding, I think it is a very strong statement, and it should be considered as something that carries our voice further than just limited spaces in rooms and often closed door decision-making that happens in these fora.
Thank you.
Maybe I can add something, Father Roy, on what Daniela just mentioned, because
Yes.
yeah, I think it is really groundbreaking, as Daniela has mentioned, and it's also a symbol of David against Goliath. So the idea came from students, so a group of students in the Pacific, and that idea was taken by the General Assembly, and now we have a court decision, a court ruling. As Daniela said, this is a court ruling. Of course, it has non-binding nature on that, but this is a court, the highest court within the UN, that will be used then at the national level as an argument, as an additional argument in the litigation processes. As you might know, that there are already ongoing litigation processes in different countries, and then now we have more legal arsenal in convincing the courts to ask some states to compensate on the losses and damages of certain countries because of the actions or the non-actions taken by some other states. So now we are really waiting to have more concrete court proceedings or court processes or litigations in which this ruling from the International Court of Justice will be used so that it can set up jurisprudence for the future effort. So it's really, really important ruling that has been made, and it's very historical. And our campaign comes at the same time. So this is really a historical chance, historical coincidences, which in fact is not coincidences, because there's the whole efforts coming from all of us to work toward the responsibility of states and also non-state actors in addressing concretely the damages, the losses, and all these sacrifices from those who are impacted, so that states can take their responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Good. I see a lot of comments than the questions, and a lot of appreciation. Thank you for your appreciation and your comments. Sister Marinus, are there any Portuguese questions from Portuguese language? If,
Não
yeah.
há propriamente questões, mas um pedido de esclarecimento e muita gratidão pela excelente
We
iniciativa.
see that there is a lot of gratitude for the different initiatives. No questions so far.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And this Brother Alberto, could you please share your content? And as for the declaration, the statement, is it only for institutions or maybe specific individuals can also sign it?
Es importante esa pregunta que hace Marinés. It's very important to say that the signature in this very moment is personal one, because you need to put your name, your surname, your nationality, your ID, and your email. And in the next 15 days, we are going to implement a special button there for institutional endorsements. It's very important that, but the call is that every one of us needs to motivate the director of your school, the pastor of your parish, the provincial of your province, the superior of your community, to sign as an institutional signature also. Yes, we will have 1,000. We can have 1 million of personal signatures, but we need to have at least 30,000 institutions backing the statement and the policy brief. And it depends of the leadership and the initiative and the proactiveness of every one of us. We will remember you through the page and through the apps and through the materials we are sharing. The moment in 1 week or 10 days where the institutional signatures will be collecting. Thank you, Marinés.
Sorry, I just wanted to jump in on one thing that I see here in the chat that I think is very important. There is a statement that has also been created by the Voices of the Global South in the Jubilee 2025 project by the Office of Religious Congregations for Integral Ecology. I just want to say that we will definitely be in touch because collaboration is necessary. I think we've been working in silos for a very long time, but if Pope Francis taught us anything, is that Fratelli Tutti, we are all the different faces of the same creation created by God. So I think that this is definitely a call for us to continue collaborating, continue adding on. I want to just say to everyone who keeps saying in the chat what happens with countries where these things are being blocked, such as the US, education is principle. You can't have an ecological conversion without understanding what is happening. Your voices are key in doing this. Our voices are key in doing this. Calling our governments to action only goes so far, as we have seen from a lot of oppressive places. But I also think that speaking of social justice is a matter of human precepts. So, for example, we are witnessing right now several televised genocides and conflicts around the world. Those have strong repercussions on the environment. Every time a bomb is dropped, every time that the ozone layer is affected, every time that weapons are used to kill, we are damaging also the environment. They are one and the same. So let us also use our voices, not only for the protection of our common home, but for the protection of one another, because one cannot coincide, one cannot coexist with the other. We cannot have all of these conflicts and all of these things ongoing and also protect the earth. So raising your voices through education, through your missions, even if your countries are not exactly listening, is also a strong form of advocacy and an integral form of action.
Thank you. I think we have to wind up now. We are at the last part of our session, not the least. We have Bodhi here. His surname is No, I am sorry, I cannot pronounce it. Yeah. So Budi is an international advocacy coordinator for Franciscan International based in Geneva. He has over 2 decades of experience at both the United Nations and at the grassroots. He has contributed in several reports and articles on the impacts of climate change and natural resources exploitation on human rights, the rights of indigenous peoples, and the human rights situation in some countries in Asia Pacific. He is from Indonesia. Budi's engagement as a human rights advocate includes work for academic institutions, social movements, and non-governmental organizations on 3 continents. So I invite Budi for the concluding remarks.
Thank you very much, Father Roy. Thank you for the excellent facilitations and moderations. And this is really a very privileged opportunity for us to be together. Really, it's very unique opportunity at the right moment in the same week as the ruling of the International Court of Justice. So the stars are aligning to us, but at the same time, it entails with big responsibility for us. As it was mentioned by Daniela, this is an opportunity for us to break the silos. We, as religious communities, congregations, network, etc., now are together this moment, and we believe that if we are together, we are stronger, and our voice will be heard much more. And I think it's very important that within our faith, within our community, we have also the teachings that can be used for us as inspiration and also as guidance. Laudato Si, Laudato Deum, and many other encyclical coming from different popes. I think it's very important for us to take concrete actions. And I guess the theme, turning hope into action, it's very important. I think the explanations on how each of us can contribute, it shows that each of us has an important role. COP30 is important as the COPs before and as the COPs afterward. This is a place, a multilateral place in which the leaders of the world take the decisions, but they cannot take the decisions without our consent, without listening to us. It's us that the decisions will be impacted. It's us who will implement if the decisions are important in our life. So this is a call that we need to really take very seriously. The 4 points, there are points that are very relevant to us regarding the cancellation of the debt of the poor countries. Many of us either coming from or working in the poor countries. That's our call. And then we need to strengthen really the compensations or addressing the issue of loss and damage, because we are witnessing that in everyday life. And when we talk about loss and damage, it's not only in the so-called poor countries. Even here in Switzerland, we have all this melting of the glacier. It is loss and damage. In Vanuatu, in the Philippines, in India, in many places, it's a global problem. It's the problem that our common home, common planet is affecting. And then we need also to have the transition towards something that is more sustainable. The energy transition, green energy transition is important, because there are also aspects while the global north is transiting to green energy. At what cost does it mean? That the minings are taking place in the indigenous communities, in the rural communities, in which they are sacrificed for the issue of just transition. So it's good question for us to push back or to question to our representative. And last but not least, is about concrete actions in trying to have a global food sovereignty system based on agri-ecological practices. So these 4 issues are very, very important. And each of us now is called to do actions, to do something concrete, either as institution, religious congregations, but the most important thing as individual. So I think this is the beginning of our collaborations, in which we will continue toward COP30, but also beyond. So let's work together. We will be back again to you through the different materials that we share. And I do believe that now we are energized. We will have much more opportunity to really work hand in hand together. And I do believe that we can make the change. So thank you very much for the presence. And I give it back to you, Father Roy.
Thank you, Bodhi, for the concluding comments. And it is a great responsibility on us now to act. And at this moment, I would like to thank a few people for making this day a wonderful day, especially the translators who have been with us all through in translating into 4 languages, Claudia, Marilu, Abra, and Saide. Thank you for being with us. And also all those people who have worked behind making this campaign document ready. A lot of people have worked hard, suggestions, drafting, redrafting, and thanks to all of you. And also the UISG and UISG, the presidents who have endorsed this document, and also to all those speakers who were present here today to make us understand why we as religious need to get into this process of advocacy and networking for bringing about positive changes in the world, especially caring for creation, our common home, and also our brothers and sisters. And also to all of you who have taken time off to be part of this webinar in a short notice. And this is not the end of it, is a series of webinars we will be having. We will be working together. We will be assisting you and also helping you to the further steps of advocacy and networking to bring about positive change with hope. So let us act with hope. Let us bring about change in the world. As Pope Francis said, we are at a crucial moment. If not now, we will be too late to repair our common home. So it's a great responsibility on us as religious. We need to commit ourselves and we need to move into action. Thanks a million. And we shall share the recordings of the video as well as the presentations that we shared today. And we'll keep in touch with you with all the proceedings until we meet again. Before the COPs, we will meet. So thank you. Thanks a million. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.